Have you seen the news? Tragedy for traditional TV as viewers switch from BBC to YouTube. BBC overtaken by YouTube in end of an era for TV. If you look at this chart of UK viewing habits, you might be able to see what's going on, though they purposely made it difficult to parse, so I rearranged it so it's in descending order now. Yeah, in December 2025, more Brits watched YouTube than the BBC. But the story does go deeper than that. How did they get this data? And what is the BBC going to do in response to these new figures? Are they going to make better content or meet the viewers where they are? Or are they going to get the UK government to change the laws to get you to watch more BBC? I'm not joking. For those unaware, this is a very important year for television in Britain, as the royal charter that allows the BBC to exist expires at the end of next year, and its replacement must be drawn up to last the next decade. But with the UK's broadcast regulator Ofcom saying the BBC and other national channels won't survive without promotion on YouTube, the writing's on the wall, guys. Your YouTube homepage might start to look a little differently soon enough. My name is Edinger, and I've been making YouTube videos for over 15 years. Welcome to why the UK government want to change your YouTube homepage and how we might just stop them. So why does the UK's broadcast regulator Ofcom think they need to intervene in YouTube's algorithm? Well, because their own data shows they're losing badly. And once you hear how they're actually tracking YouTube views, that should surprise you even more. The news that more Brits are watching YouTube than the BBC has been reported by nearly every leading UK newspaper, except of course the BBC. You see, the BBC claims they're still number one, just based on a different metric. The major issue is the bizarre way that Barb is reporting the data. If you don't know what Barb is, welcome to the party. Barb is the Broadcasters Audience Research Board, where all the data comes from. Barb is a joint venture owned by the BBC and a lot of other legacy British broadcasters as a way to find out what Brits are watching. Don't worry, no conflicts of interest here at all. When you see a news story that the new episode of Gavin and Stacey had 12 million views across Britain, you're probably wondering, well, how do they know that? Well, they actually don't. It's just an estimate based on the viewing habits of a select group of 7,000 British households, each with a magic box installed into their telly that tells Barb what they're watching, and it also comes with a special remote to say which family member is watching the TV. These people are paid in Argus gift cards, so that's fun. How exactly is Barb tracking YouTube? Well, it knows the domain youtube.com has been accessed, and then the box that users have in their homes records the audio coming out of the TV, and it matches it against a database, sort of like Shazam, but more than just music. But there is a catch. First off, you recognize this pig? You might be thinking, oh yeah, of course, Evan, that's Peppa Pig, made for the UK PSB, or Public Service Broadcaster, Channel 5. But you'd be wrong, at least according to Barb. You see, Peppa Pig is a YouTuber. Clearly, or at least they're one of these very small number of YouTube channels that Barb actually tracks. At this time, Barb can only track if you're watching 200 specific YouTube channels, or about 0.3% of YouTube watched in the UK. Not mine, not many other YouTube channels that you're probably watching, but they do track the YouTube channel for Warner Brothers, Sony Entertainment, and hey, Peppa Pig. Yeah, those are probably my 3 favorite YouTubers. And in fact, Peppa Pig is one of the examples used in the Ofcom report for the reasons why they need to mess with the algorithm. According to the report, British children need a British First filter to make sure that they see enough homegrown content. Because apparently, if a kid in Manchester watches Bluey instead of Peppa Pig, well, that's a big issue we need to legislate over. Bluey is Australian propaganda, as you know. But here's what they're really saying. We can't compete, we've lost, so let's change the rules. The report argues that platforms like YouTube should be required to promote British content, so content by PSBs shows up more in your searches and your recommendations on YouTube. The report even acknowledges that PSB content, quote, only forms a small proportion of what UK audiences watch on YouTube. They know people aren't choosing their content, and their solution isn't to make better content, it's to force YouTube to show it to you anyway. Think about what this means in practice. You search for best cooking channels. Half the results are now BBC food. Not because it's the best search result or the best content, but because the law says it has to be there. Any individual cooking YouTubers that aren't state-run conglomerates? Well, why would you need a diverse group of individual voices from creators when the one approved by the government should do you just fine? You open YouTube on your TV. Instead of your subscriptions or recommended videos on the YouTube app, you instead get BBC News, Channel 4 News, ITV News, and any content that they want to shove down your throat. There you go. Please stop watching YouTube. Please watch our programs. The main thing that makes YouTube feel so special to me is that it is full of independent creators. I've been watching YouTube since it came out. My YouTube channel literally turns 20 years old this year. So when I'm looking for a video to watch on YouTube, I'm looking for a video from a YouTuber. a person who is interested enough in a topic to spend the time making a video about it. I actively avoid videos recommended to me by The Jimmy Fallon Show or The Morning Show Interview or any of the other old TV tripe. That's not what I'm on YouTube for. I could waste my life away watching that if I wanted to on a TV. Instead, I can watch something interesting that's actually relevant to me that helps me learn something. The more corporate a piece of content, the less likely I am to engage with it. What draws people to YouTube isn't as much of the content as much as the authenticity. It may have a bit of everything on it now, but YouTube is full of independent creators. For now. And it just feels bizarre and honestly a bit dystopian for the government to impose changes to limit the amount of independent creators you can see so that there's more space for you to see the hashtag government-approved content, all decided by the collective entity of the aging group of senior executives at the BBC. Clearly isn't doing so well at making content that people want to watch, but why not force it on you? If you did open the BBC app, wouldn't it be weird if Channel 4 programs were at the top? Or if you open the ITV app and TikToks or American HBO shows were prominently displayed? Well, yeah, the BBC app shows you things made by the BBC, because they made it. And it's their app. Ofcom pressuring the UK government to force YouTube to show you more BBC stuff is like if they forced McDonald's to sell Burger King burgers too, because everyone stopped going to Burger King and can't have that. We gotta find a way to prop up Burger King. That's a tragedy. If you read any of the articles talking about this big end of TV era, you'd be able to tell they're all clearly written by those who have little to no experience with YouTube, but are very happy to talk about it and be a proud mouthpiece of the governmental body anyway. This bit of the Times article fully sent me. We have Stephen D. Wright, a TV veteran, called the figures a tragedy. He said, "The tipping point is here and we are now living in a world dominated by YouTube and the streamers. The TV audience has abandoned the discipline of scheduled TV and on-demand viewing has killed any loyalty. Who wants to wait when you can click your phone? That audience is slowly dying off and it's a tragedy." Yeah, it's such a tragedy people no longer sit by the radio hoping their favorite song comes on. I miss the good old days when people from my generation of strength and character and discipline would happily wait for the radio host to maybe play the song they wanted rather than just using the internet to listen to it more immediately. And you can tell who this quote and article are trying to speak to. People who don't watch YouTube. Yeah, no, the thing is, the numbers are showing the British public are increasingly watching YouTube on their televisions. There's a lot of great videos, documentaries, shows, and more, all produced on YouTube by individual creators with production quality matching traditional TV. But, I mean, no, it's just those kids clicking on their phones. Clicking on your phone? Did you mean tapping? Clicking's the word we use for computers. Come on, man, please just catch up. I love that they interviewed another TV executive who was like, maybe people are just using YouTube to watch BBC stuff. Yeah, man, that's definitely it. Maybe you should try looking at it to see what people are actually watching there. That's an idea. No, I just love the many voices they get from the TV industry for their articles, but not one YouTuber. No, in articles about YouTube, why would you interview a YouTuber? I'm right here, guys. Shoot me an interview request. But hey, that might involve doing some actual journalism, and that sounds like a bit too much work, right? Even the article posted by The Independent claims the reasons for YouTube's growth are, and I quote, Charlie Bit My Finger from 2007. Gangnam Style from 2012, and content from more established creators like Jennifer Lawrence. Yeah, real great journalism there. The kind of dinosaurs writing these articles are the ones that think YouTube is just videos of dogs riding skateboards and sneezing pandas, and rather than performing some sort of journalism, which I believe is quite literally their job, they just chat with more and more TV executives about TV and continue having no real idea why people are watching YouTube. Is it to watch the BBC? I just don't get it. David After Dentist, is he still relevant? I didn't know anything about Barb before I started this video, but I had to learn it to understand its role in this topic, and I'm not a journalist, I'm just a YouTuber. And even though there are millions of YouTubers out there, each with a different voice, different life experience, interests, niches, styles, well, according to Ofcom's understanding, we're all just kind of the same. You see, in the report, Ofcom say one of the issues with Brits watching content on other platforms is that the platform determines what content is promoted to users. This makes it harder for audiences to find PSB content, which undermines its universality and may mean they are exposed to fewer genres or viewpoints. Wow. Yeah, this also came up on page 15, so they must really believe it. They say, quote, viewing a smaller volume of PSB content also means audiences are less likely to be consuming a breadth of genres. Do they even know what YouTube is? They do. They're just being really disingenuous about the data. You see, most people will look at the headlines about this. Some may read the article, and a rare few with no lives might read the entire Ofcom report. I, of course, did all of these things, but something still puzzled me. It was this section in particular describing what audiences liked about YouTube and PSBs. What I found interesting was that the categories were completely different so that no comparison could be drawn. According to Ofcom, 69% of Brits found YouTube provides programs relevant to them, and 69% of Brits also felt YouTube had programs which feature people from different backgrounds. Okay, and twice Ofcom said PSBs offer more genres and more viewpoints than YouTube, so when I went to see what percent it was, well, strangely, it's not there. Instead, Ofcom chose completely unrelated categories like, well, Brits love that PSBs are offering sport, and appealing to a wide range of audiences. Broadly consistent with the previous years, by the way. Yeah, what I'm looking for in content usually is that it has a broad appeal to multiple audiences. That's usually what I'm looking for. Either way, something felt fishy, so I had downloaded the 7,000 page dataset myself to find the answer they were hiding, and wouldn't you know, looking into the actual data makes it look even worse, if not more obvious. On page 1984 of the dataset, ironic, compared to 69% of Brits that find YouTube videos relevant to them, only 57% of Brits felt the same for the BBC. Huh. No wonder they didn't publicize that data. But for featuring people from different backgrounds, you know, that argument that they say is, a huge issue with YouTube and other platforms, you're not getting a diverse set of voices and the depth and breadth of the BBC. Well, it turns out 59% of Brits felt the BBC did a good job compared to 69% of YouTube. Ooh. I do find it interesting that Ofcom deliberately left this nugget out of their summaries, as their own data would provide a perfect counter to one of their main points they're hoping works to convince the members of Parliament, who no doubt are not going to look through the 7,000-page dataset to check their work like a YouTuber with ADHD. I'm fairly certain there are many members of Parliament that probably still think YouTube is just keyboard cat, despite the fact that YouTube content creators contributed £2.2 billion to the UK economy in 2024 and supported 45,000 jobs, according to an impact report carried out by Oxford Economics. But Parliament is quite slow-moving. Even when I was invited there to film a YouTube video in a documentary style about demystifying Parliament, linked above, I ran into quite a few issues filming, because even though many newer MPs are clued in about modern media and the landscape here, most of the systems of Parliament are static as a feature and more used to the older BBC TV style system, so it takes a Herculean push from the inside to change that. So when this Ofcom report gets debated in the House of Commons and the House of Lords this year, the side representing YouTube creators will inevitably be slim. And MPs are more than likely to just side with everything that this Ofcom report says because the PSBs have a ticking time bomb of a problem that needs solving now. And what's that problem, you ask? Money. Or more specifically, the lack of it coming in. Why are they so desperate to force the BBC onto your YouTube homepage in the first place? Well, because if you don't see it, you'll realize you don't really need it. And if you realize you're not really watching it, you'll probably stop paying for it. I've made an entire video about the TV license already, linked above, but for those unaware, in the UK, citizens are currently taxed £174.50 a year to watch TV in glorious color. And if that isn't a sign of how dated the system is, I don't know what is. I see a lot of Americans freak out over the idea of having a license to watch TV, but considering the average American spends around $147 a month on their cable package, I don't really think they have a leg to stand on. But here's the thing, no one actually has to pay it in the UK. It's sort of like an honor system. If you don't watch live TV or BBC iPlayer, you don't legally need a license. But the TV licensing folk will send you threatening letters anyway, every single month, hoping that you don't know this. They'll tell you inspectors are coming. Oh, don't make it sound like the police are getting involved. And you'll get a red letter in the mail. Oh God. But it's all just a really weird charade that only the most delusional of Brits still defends. But the thing is, it's working less and less every year. As the data shows, people of all demographics are watching way more YouTube and way less terrestrial television. Younger people aren't paying the TV license. Anyone conscious of money at the moment isn't paying the TV license once they realize it's toothless law. And the BBC knows that if this trend continues, the whole honor system model collapses. I said it 4 years ago, and I'll say it again. This system of funding the BBC might have worked decades ago, but guess what? It is currently 2026, and the model stopped working so long ago, it's just sad. This is the reason why Ofcom have been putting out all of these reports calling for action from Parliament, which they may soon get. And I do want to say the action the report calls for isn't always something that's out of touch. Just most of the time. They do state that public service broadcasters do, quote, need to work much harder to create content that audiences want to watch on these platforms where they are. So they do know they need to make better content. They just don't know how to make better content. Actually, I'm standing out front BBC right now in London because after I filmed the majority of this video, there was a massive update. As of this week, YouTube and the BBC have now reached a landmark decision for the BBC to start producing content specifically for YouTube. On its surface, this sounds great. I mean, that's pretty much everything they've been talking about doing. They're going to be meeting the viewers where they are and producing content like that they want to watch there. That sounds great. But given the overall context of what Ofcom is trying to do by getting Parliament to give PSB content higher priority on YouTube, this doesn't feel like them fairly competing with independent creators. It feels like another way to stifle them and get people to watch them instead. And that just doesn't feel right. If you are producing content of worth that people want to watch, then you shouldn't need to change the law in your favor to get people to watch it. That just feels inherently wrong. And if you see what the BBC app looks like these days, well, maybe it starts to make sense. My girlfriend was showing me this section of the official BBC app the other day where the BBC thinks they're making better content for younger demographics, but it's just really boring BBC videos repackaged and cut vertically without any clear understanding of what works for the medium. You can't just crop in on your slow-paced video produced 5 years ago with a youngish presenter and then complain the youth don't want to watch it. Oh, it's just because of the TikToks and the YouTubes. Why don't we just put ourselves there and force them to watch it by giving them less choice? Yeah, that's exactly how you make good content. Embarrassing. Even if YouTube implements the changes Ofcom recommends of adding higher prominence of BBC and similar channels in search and recommendations and forcing PSB content to be higher on your smart TV, it's not going to take more than 1 or 2 videos for the viewer to realize they're not going to want to click those again, so they're just going to ignore them. They're not worth their time. That's not what they're on YouTube for. And now, 50% of the search results will be wasted on content that doesn't accurately serve your interests. I guess similar to how YouTube is nowadays, right? YouTube search is already very bad, let's be honest. You search for one simple thing on your desktop and YouTube desperately throws shorts at you until you select videos only because you're not a child, and then after 5 or 6 relevant results, YouTube just gives up and shows you random homepage results anyway. So just imagine that. But now, half the results aren't by YouTubers, they're by legacy TV broadcasters who aren't there because the content's good, but because they got the law to change it so that they could be there. Please watch us, please. Please? Why watch individual creators when you can watch what the government wants you to watch? Come on, guys. It's not YouTube, it's UKTube. Oh! Guys, excellent. I just don't like the UK government meddling in this at all. Why? Is it because you're biased? Yes, this is my job. There's, as I said, YouTubers are bringing in so much money. This is my job. I'm an independent creator. I've been trying so hard for so long. And now the UK government have seen the writing on the walls and they're like, oh, actually, that's annoying that people want to watch individual people. Let's stop them. What the f? And they do just seem to try to make any justification for these changes, like in the further annex for this 65-page document, which, yes, of course, I had to read to make this video. Ofcom performed a YouTube experiment to see what news channels are being recommended on YouTube by searching for things that every human is searching for on YouTube, like news and news live and politics. Also, Starmer Trump. Mate, nightmare blunt rotation. But it was all to show that for these select few searching for terms like politics into the YouTube search bar, the majority of videos served were not from within the UK. One country from among over 200 that upload videos on YouTube. I will say, to give them credit where credit is due, I do think it would make more sense when searching for UK news specifically to have a higher weight in the algorithm for videos from official UK PSBs. That does make sense to me. Otherwise, people might be served those US media channels that like to give everyone the false impression that London isn't safe and Britain has fallen, so their own citizens don't feel so bad about the Gestapo breaking down their neighbors' doors. But I do want to be objectively clear though. PSBs are a net good for society, in my opinion. As a kid, our family couldn't afford cable for a long time, so I watched quite a lot of PBS, which was our equivalent, basically, in the US. The kids shows on PBS, like Arthur, were very wholesome and taught life lessons and would be comparable to Peppa Pig in their mission. In terms of news broadcasts, I know a lot of Brits knock the BBC for a variety of reasons, but I genuinely believe if they had any experience with how slanted and commercial pretty much every US news channel is, they'd be crying to bring the BBC back. And as opposed to, say, the more Wild West of YouTube, where anyone like myself can say anything we want, the BBC is, as an institution, held to a much higher standard of journalistic integrity, and there is a huge amount of value in that. I know my editor Kim loves a lot of PSB shows, like Torchwood, In My Skin, and Traitors, and I've enjoyed the bits and bobs I've seen from many PSB-produced shows in the UK. And Channel 4 in particular has had some great success recently uploading specific content to YouTube that people want to watch, without cheating the system to get it in their favor. But I think forcing an old medium to exist in its current form, rather than having it grow and change with the times, is part of the reason its viewership has been on the decline, however natural. So when I see a post at the top of the Ask UK subreddit asking, who else just doesn't watch TV anymore? The comment that most people upvoted to the top begins to make sense. For the last 5 years, I've largely watched YouTube. Once it learns what you like, it is way better than most TV. BBC still does god-tier stuff, but it is very rare. And the majority of Brits in the comments seemed to voice similar things of not watching terrestrial TV in years and only using it pretty much for live sport. And regardless of whether you're in that Reddit group, you agree with them, or if you're one of the millions of older Brits whose YouTube usage is growing by double digits every year, the reality is the same. The public is voting with their remotes. Well, while we still can, I suppose. And while we're busy choosing what to watch, the UK government is busy deciding what we're allowed to find. If you agree with me, or very importantly, if you do disagree with me at any of this, it's very important you still let your voice be heard, as there's only a few weeks left for you to do so. The Royal Charter, the legal document that defines what the BBC is, how it's funded, and how it operates, is up for renewal, and the UK government is running a consultation period right now. They're asking the public for feedback on the future of the BBC and British broadcasting. I will leave a link in the description so that you can let your voice be heard. I strongly encourage you fill it out, but I also want to curb your enthusiasm a bit. After filling out the survey myself, it seems like the questions were purposefully formulated in a way to reduce any criticism or change. If you're someone who's against all AI use, I'm not, but you may be, which option would you choose here on should the BBC use AI for the public good and wider creative industries? Besides the first response, which is, more transparency, that can't be bad, the other choices are positive, 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 other, and no obligations at all, or no opinion. So they've pretty much stacked the poll in their favor to force the outcome they want anyway. So when it comes up in Parliament, they can be like, can you believe it? 100% of the British public are actually a big fan of us using AI to start making content. Great, and then it can be forced on YouTube. It's almost like when you ask for water at a restaurant and they ask you if you want still or sparkling. That's not what I asked, is it? They've given you a choice between 2 paid options, so you momentarily forget that you wanted tap water for free. But now you have to go out of your way to ask for that specifically. And the same goes for the BBC forcing itself onto your YouTube feed. It lists that they're, quote, exploring the regulatory framework to do this in the consultation page, but in terms of the survey itself, they don't give you a choice at that at all. It doesn't even come up. Instead, the public only get asked if the BBC should make better use of YouTube and TikTok. I mean, yeah, they should, but there's no doubt in my mind that the results of this loaded poll will be used to feign full public support, as there are no real options against it. I do still think that if you have the time, you should fill out the survey and make liberal use of the other categories so that you can write in your actual answers, responding to your thoughts on ads on the BBC and more. But realistically, here's what I think will probably happen this year. The UK government finishes the consultation. They rubber stamp all of Ofcom recommendations and make some big statement about how, well, this is going to be protecting the children from the horrors of non-UK media. Then British citizens who don't want their YouTube algorithm to be forcibly promoting legacy media will inevitably have to download some browser extension to automatically block these channels, which would interestingly be doing the exact opposite of what Ofcom wants. So basically, any intelligent viewer who has any feeling like they should have the agency of choosing what to watch is now never going to see the BBC stuff and might be a bit resentful about it. Or hey, the other solution, which has to be employed by many Brits anyway due to the more recent draconian UK laws, is to simply change their YouTube browsing location using today's video sponsor, NordVPN. It's simple. You just want to watch your favorite creators on YouTube. Well, it used to be simple, but your government would rather you watch what they'd like you to watch. But with one tap of a button, or a click you could say, NordVPN passes all your internet traffic through an encrypted tunnel out of the UK, and now you're suddenly Irish. It's like you never left the EU at all. Your YouTube search results wouldn't have any governmental mandated changes, and you get the added benefit of increasing your online security. Changing your location to America, France, or Australia has been known to open up a world of different content libraries on sites like Netflix, but now you get to experience OG YouTube, a thing that used to be a little bit easier to do. Plus, as your data is going through NordVPN, it's an ultra-fast connection, and your internet traffic is completely protected and hidden from your ISP. And as always, NordVPN have a great offer. If you click my link in the description, nordvpn.com/Evan, that's easy to remember because it's Evan, well, you can get a huge discount on a 2-year plan. So thank you very much to NordVPN for sponsoring. Now, let me wrap this up. Welcome to the outro. This video is another example of a video idea I thought would be super easy, and I could just quickly talk about some stuff that came up in some articles, and that way I could quickly film and edit this, catch up on my backlog, and nope, ended up researching through pages and pages of stuff that never even made it into this video. So much for an easy video, but had a fun time. I've learned a lot actually. But if you want to know more about the specifics of the TV license, I will link that video from when I had long hair above. But either way, I hope you learned something today, and hopefully I see you back on my channel next Sunday. Unless the BBC actually get pushed out instead. But hey, it's been fun while it lasted. Goodbye. They'll tell you inspectors are coming. Oh, they'll make it sound like the police are getting involved. They'll even send out the fabled red letter. But it's all just a really weird charade rather, that only the most delusional of Brits still defends. Can you believe I Britishized charade? Oh, what has happened to my accent? Charade? Charade? Oh! What? Vile! Charade, darling. Play some charades with me and the boys. Me and Robert and Rupert. We're going to go play charades.